Christmas? Okay, so, I mean, pretty much, I think most of us could probably get out that Christmas is the night that Jesus came to earth. Mary gave birth to Jesus. And on that night, we had the three wise men come to give the gifts, and we had the angels involved, and we had the shepherds come in, and the little drummer boy. No, there was no little drummer boy. Sorry to burst your bubble. Do what?
I said not.
Not on the drummer boy. No. It just sounded like a fun song to write, so that's why someone said that we write a little drummer boy song. But there was a lot going on that night. There were lots of people to bring validation to the truth that Jesus was the Son of God, that He was the Messiah. And tonight I want to look at Isaiah. You know what testament Isaiah is in? Old Testament. It's in the Old Testament. What does that mean?
It's old.
Oh, it's old. But was it written before or after Jesus? Before Jesus. See, I think a lot of times we tend to forget that much of what Jesus did on earth and the things that the New Testament talks about were all predicted and talked about in the Old Testament hundreds of years before Jesus even came to earth. You know, we think of Jesus as this like fun little story, but really, Jesus was the answer to the call for a Messiah that had been going on for a long time. Okay, so I want to look at one of those passages tonight. So here, I just want to read a little bit. We'll go ahead and I'll try to fill you in on what little things mean as we get going, because I know some of it's a little confusing, because Isaiah was a prophet. He did speak and say some things that, unless you were a part of the culture, you might not get too much. But I'll try to fill you in on what the little things mean. Because, like I said, there's a couple words that would kind of throw you off. Alright, here we go. So here, Isaiah 9, verse 1. But there will be no more gloom for her. Now, whenever he says her, he's not talking about a girl, he's not talking about a chick, he's not talking about your girlfriend, he's not talking about your mom. He's talking about Israel. The group of Israel. He said there will be no more gloom for Israel, the people group of Israel, the race, the large group of people. Okay? It's kind of like a boat, right? Have you ever heard someone call a boat a her? Even though it's a boat, it's an inanimate object, has no life, they still call it a her. Same thing. It's calling a group of people a her. Who was in anguish in earlier times. He treated the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. Yeah, those are weird words. With contempt, but later on he shall make it, they, glorious by the way of the sea on the other side of the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. Alright, so they were not feeling too good, they were mournful, not happy. But he's saying they will be made happy. And it's going to come from Galilee. Do you know where Bethlehem is? Over there kind of by Galilee. Do you know where Jesus preached a lot? By the Sea of Galilee. You know where Jesus did a lot of his miracles? Kind of by Galilee. You know where most of the disciples came from? Galilee. See how we're already starting to kind of see something here? I'll let you know. I'm going to go through this and I'm going to tell you when this was written. I think your mind's going to be blown. Okay? Verse 2. The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. Those who live in a dark land, the light will shine on them. Didn't Christ say that He's the light? Have you heard that before? Where Jesus says, I am the light. Right? So who would be in darkness? People who are in sin. And they would receive light from Jesus. Okay. Another thing there. You shall multiply the nation. You shall increase their gladness. They will be glad in your presence as with the gladness of harvest, as men rejoice when they divide the spoil. For you shall break the yoke of their burden. What's our burden? Sin. Sin's our burden. and the staff on their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor, as at the battle of Gideon. For every boot of the booted warrior in the battle tumult. The cloak rolled in blood will be for burning fuel for the fire. Didn't someone, who bled in the New Testament? Who bled and died for us? Jesus. Okay. Verse 6. For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. You know what all those things mean? Here, let's start with Wonderful Counselor. When do you go to a counselor?
Every time you're in trouble.
Here, raise your hand. I've got too many answers. I need one person. Here, let's go with Zach.
Whenever you're in trouble.
Whenever you're having trouble. Okay, somebody else tell me, what is the counselor going to do? Layla? Give you advice. Okay? So, you go to the counselor when you're having trouble because the counselor can give you advice because she has wisdom. So when it says wonderful counselor, it's saying the person who has the most wisdom. Be nice. You're not getting the point. I'm saying this. Who's the person in the New Testament who seems to have all the answers to everybody's problem? The person that people come to when they're having a hard time, when they feel like they have nothing else left. The person who speaks in parables so that other people can understand. Who is that? Jesus. What about mighty God? That means mighty means power. The power. The power to sustain someone, to protect, to care for. Didn't Jesus do miracles whenever he provided for people? What else? Eternal Father. Father meets the needs. What's eternal? Well, eternal life. Meets the need of eternal life. And then the last one, Prince of Peace. He came in peace. He didn't come to destroy when he came to earth. He came to reconcile. Bring people back to God through him. Alright, verse 7. There will be no end to the increase of his government, or of peace on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and righteousness, for then on and forevermore, the zeal of the Lord of hosts will accomplish this. I already kind of let you know a couple of the crazy things that I picked out of here. But Isaiah predicted three things. Alright? Isaiah predicted three things. The first thing he predicted was that the world would be in sin. The world was already in sin. The world was already headed down a bad path. Isaiah knew this, but he also knew that we needed some help from our sin because we couldn't do it. This was a crazy thought because at the time, everybody just made sacrifices. If you read the Old Testament, they mess up, they have to give up 2 ox. Or they mess up and they have to give up 3 doves. And that's how it works. You just do, there's an animal sacrifice deal, and for whatever you do, however much money you make, that's the sacrifice you make to atone or to pay for your sin. Well, Isaiah knew here in chapter 9 that we were going to be at a place where we couldn't atone for our sin. We can't. Ultimately, we can't. See, in verse 1, he says that they're going to be in gloom. Gloom's a kind of a sad word. I'm sure some of us have been in gloom. It's just where it feels like no matter what happens, you just feel like it's a rainy day. Best thing can happen to you, but you just still feel like, well, whatever. Still don't feel good about what's going on. You're just in gloom. Isaiah in verse 2 says that we would be in darkness. Like I said, darkness means that we are in our sin. We're not in the light, so darkness is the exact opposite. It Isn't it cool? Isn't it cool that also kind of goes to Genesis chapter 1, at the creation of the world, at the creation of everything, that God said, "Let there be light." What's the opposite of light? Darkness. See, when we're lost in sin, that's where we're at, in darkness. And see, Isaiah also knew that we'd be oppressed. That by our sin, we would be shackled. Have you ever seen some of those old-timey movies whenever those guys are walking around with the chains on, they got the ball like they're walking along, they got the chains on their hands and feet? They can't go anywhere. They're not going to run anywhere. They're oppressed. They're relying on the person in front of them and the person behind them to kind of just even keep walking in a direction. And see, that's what sin does to it. It grips a hold of us, and our life is dictated by our sin, and we're oppressed by it. That means that sin makes the decisions for us. But Isaiah also knew exactly how Jesus would come. In verse 1 it says that he would come from Galilee. We talked about that. In verse 6 it says that a child would be born. Jesus didn't go, poof, and he was like a man walking around doing miracles, being a carpenter, nailing on stuff. No. He came as a baby. He came as a child. He lived the life that we would live, as in human flesh. Why? Because he had to live it perfectly for us. See, the third thing Isaiah knew is that Jesus would save us. Verse 1, he'd make it glorious. Verse 2, the light will shine on them. Verse 3, he would increase gladness. Verse 3, people would be glad in God's presence once again. Verse 3, we would divide the spoil, the treasure of heaven. What does it mean to divide that? That means to receive it and then to share it. To receive the treasure of heaven, that's the spoil, like pirate treasure. And then to divide it up and then hand it to someone else. Verse 4, he would break the burden of sin. I'm sorry, this really had to be inappropriate. Verse 4, he would defeat our oppressor. Who's our oppressor? Satan. Satan. He would defeat him. He defeated him on the cross. What's funny is Satan keeps fighting. He's still trying to get at you. He's still trying to make sure you stumble. He's still trying to make sure that you don't do anything. But he's already lost. He lost on the cross. He defeated our oppressor. Verse 6, he meets our needs. And verse 7, heaven will never end. Isaiah predicted all three of those things. In 7 verses, Isaiah predicted all those things. You want to know when Isaiah was written? About 700 years before Jesus was even born. I don't see how anyone could look at this and go, you know, Jesus was just another baby. Jesus was just another person. I don't see how anyone could say Jesus was just another person when they knew that Isaiah, and they would know because they all read Isaiah. They all knew. They all knew that Isaiah had said this. You know, but see, they twisted it and they took this, and whenever it said Prince of Peace, they went, oh, that means that he's going to fight everybody until we have peace. So then they started looking for a Messiah to be born that was going to be this big strong dude that was going to come through and rip everybody's heads off so that they could be on top again like they were supposed to be. And that's not who God sent. He sent Jesus. Because their oppressors were not Rome. Their oppressors were not any other people. Their oppressors were their own sin and Satan, the person who took a hold on them. So whenever Jesus came to fulfill the prophecy that Isaiah had already said, it threw them off. But see, for us, we see this now and we go, how could anyone not think that Jesus was who he says he was? When he came and did exactly what was told that he was going to do 700 years before he even came to earth. There's a lot more things in the Bible that go back on prophecy that say Jesus is going to come and do this. It doesn't say Jesus, but it says the Messiah will come and do this. Messiah, God with us. When God comes to us, he's going to do these things. And it seems like there is not a single thing in which Jesus struck out. You know, we think like, well, I guess if Jesus got 9 out of 10 things right, then he would be that's pretty good odds, right? No, Jesus got 10 out of 10 right. Because he fulfilled everything that he came to do for us. So here's what you do with this. Here's what you do with this. First off, personally, whenever Christmas comes around, we're not worried about ourselves. Why are we worried about ourselves? Because Jesus wasn't worried about himself. There was nothing in any of this that said Jesus came for himself. All of it is Jesus came for us to save us. So whenever we get to Christmas, we're not worried about if we're going to get what we want for Christmas. We're not worried about doing the things that we want to do over Christmas break. All we're worried about is just serving other people, helping other people, being joyful because God has given us joy. He's taken us out of the oppression or out of the gloom of sin and given us life. The second thing we do with this is we make sure we let people know about Jesus. You've got Christmas coming up. You're going to see family members that you have never seen in like a year. They're coming, and you look at them and you go, Mom, I don't even know who that is. And you're like, oh, that's your cousin. And you're going to be like, what? Who's that person? Right? But you have the opportunity. You have the opportunity in those moments. You have the opportunity in those moments to tell those people about Jesus and who he is, what people said he was going to come to do, what he did, which was everything that was said about him, and how amazing he is and what he's done in your life. You have that opportunity. There's going to be people at church that come to church and they only come on Christmas. But you're going to have the opportunity to tell them about Jesus and share love with them. Look for opportunities. Tell people Merry Christmas. If people want to get upset, love them anyway. The worst thing you can do is get upset whenever someone gets upset with you about Christmas. Because all it shows is that you're bitter to them because of where they're at, instead of just loving them. Did y'all see the last thing? This kind of connects to that. Did y'all see the Starbucks thing? There was I use this lightly, there was a preacher on the internet, and he went to Starbucks, and he was upset because Starbucks didn't put Merry Christmas on his cup. They took Merry Christmas off their cups. And he made a video saying like, this is terrible, they should put Merry Christmas on their cups, and blah, 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 blah. So what I did was I told them my name was Merry Christmas, so they were forced to put Merry Christmas on my cup. And now you do it too. And you know what? Here's how I feel about that. What we just did was we forced Christmas down someone's throat, but we never shared Jesus. We never shared love. We never shared the love that Jesus wanted us to share. All we did was force our moralistic American agenda down their throat without actually loving somebody. This Christmas, love somebody. Do something for
We're giving it all.